Now we're asking them questions from both our live audience here tonight and from viewers sent in over the past several weeks. We're going to start with a viewer question about ATVs. And although this one was sent in from Terry, we received a ton of email questions about this. When the weather warms, illegal dirt bikes and ATVs swarm the city. This is not an innocent problem, nor is it a new one. Each year it happens, and each year local leaders like yourselves say they will crack down. Just last week, News 4 revealed an internal investigation is underway about whether a Buffalo police officer ran over a four-wheeler with his police cruiser. This is an issue that cost taxpayers money. Terry from Riverside said she was almost run over on her sidewalk last summer, and she wants to know, what will you do if elected to finally take back Buffalo streets from these illegal ATVs and finally hold people who carry out these illegal practices accountable? Mr. Wyatt, we begin with you, sir.
One of the things I know that's been a big issue, we've had a lot of ATVs driving up Bailey Avenue, driving on the 33, and I know the police have a policy that they don't do a chase. But we have to kind of have the community to assist us in locating where these ATVs are. That's what we did with the E-District Chief. He was letting residents contact him where these ATVs were. And we have to look at some of our laws, too, because right across from the E-District Chief station, they were selling ATVs. And I went and said, well, why are you selling these ATVs when you know it's a problem? And so we need to make sure that the city is on board and putting in laws to make sure that ATVs aren't sold in the city because they're not allowed to drive them in the city. And so we have to work more proactively with community block clubs to be proactive, because I do think that one of the things that did help was the sheriff's office using their helicopters to try to track this down, but we can't do that every single time. So we do need the community to assist us in getting that information out to the district chiefs, the police department, to trying to get to these people before they start riding up and becoming a menace in our neighborhoods.
Mr. Wyatt, thank you.
You have 90 seconds.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so obviously this is a quality of life issue. Whether it's people driving up and down streets, coming through parks, you're putting people in jeopardy, their safety in jeopardy. So the Buffalo Police Department, we've had conversations about increasing fines, impounding vehicles, whatever we have to do to make sure it's safe. Increase the number of cameras throughout neighborhoods so that we can see where these ATVs are going and where the people are parking them and where they're returning home with them, so that we can then approach them once they're done. Again, but using the different technology at our disposal, drones within the Buffalo Police Department, partnering with our different organizations and partners like Erie County, we'll continue to do that as well to make sure that the people that are using these ATVs are not impacting quality of life.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Mr. Ryan?
So, you see it around the city, and it's scary. I've seen kids going down the street super fast on wheelies, no helmets on. It's only a matter of time before there's a tragedy and a loss of life. So we need to do better in trying to figure this out. I support the state law that bans the sale of ATVs in areas where they're illegal to ride. So under that law, nobody would be able to sell an ATV, either from a dealer or an individual in the city of Buffalo. That should help to cut down on some of the ATVs that are readily available in the city. But it's also important, this is a part of comprehensive public safety. We need to work with the community groups. We need to work with the peacemakers, back to basics, the groups that are out there in the community, talking to these kids, telling them about the dangers of the ATVs, but also talking to their parents and the neighbors to find out where they're parking the ATVs when they're done buzzing around the neighborhood. And that's really how we intertwine community policing, community programs, and the Buffalo Police Department. People in the neighborhood are going to be much more apt to talk to the community groups like peacemakers than they will be to talk to the police department on this. And we also just have to keep our kids busy. We need to stop making cuts to our youth programming. We need to keep the kids occupied in the summer, and that'll keep them off the streets, and it'll keep them from popping wheelies down our intersections.
Mr. Whitfield?
Yes, I think this is an issue that's larger than ATVs. It's a traffic management issue. We have people who are driving at excessive speeds throughout the city, whether it's on an ATV or whether in these Dodges or these different vehicles that they drive. It's a traffic management issue. I'm not sure where that department is, where the police department is with the traffic management, but I think we need to do more work there. I agree with all of the candidates. We need to, reach out to the community groups. We talk about the peacemakers and all of these boots on the ground organizations. In my administration, we will have community response teams who are trained and integrated into the first response system. They're part of that system, not outside of that system, who will be integrated and will be able to work within the communities. They're trusted members of those communities. And also, in my administration, we talked about police patrols and these kinds of things, which are great. And people want police in their community. It'd be much better if they lived in that community. So in my administration, like I did in the fire department, police officers will live in the communities that they work in, and that will help bolster, safety and community, safe neighborhoods. And so there's a number of things we can do. It's not a one-off. There's a number of things. There needs to be a policy and needs to be a plan, and I think we should work with the community to produce one.
Mr. Whitfield, thank you. Mr. Tyson Thompson.
Yeah. To address the issue like this, you really have to address it at a holistic level. One of the things I've learned through my entire journey in a professional career is that when you push it on one level, you're pulling on another. So, you have to address it, public safety, because people are speeding through with ATVs that are not safe, and you might have young kids on them. So, I think there's a lot of good ideas on this stage, but we have to bring them all together. You have to work with both the city, and also the county and the state to make sure something like this is congruent. So that way, when no one in the city of Buffalo can buy an ATV. You have to bring people to the table who are used to dealing with these issues. Once again, I don't necessarily agree with the community response team. I believe we should be training our police officers to handle these things. We can have a task force that's particularly, trained and ready at the helm to kind of address more ATVs and chases, the same way with mental health and other issues. But I don't think necessarily relying on our citizens to get involved in emergencies or issues is the right way to do about it. We got to keep our people safe. That's the most important thing as a leader of the city, and that's what I plan to do as the mayor of Buffalo.